The scream came exactly 30 minutes after breakfast. I was sitting in the living room staring at my hands when I heard it. A sound so horrible, so filled with agony, that my entire body froze. It wasn't just a yell or a shout, it was the kind of scream that makes your blood turn cold, the kind that tells you something is terribly, horribly wrong. Then came the crash. Furniture breaking, glass shattering, heavy thuds like a body hitting the floor. "Trevor!" Patricia's voice cut through the house like a knife. She had been sitting across from me just seconds before, watching me with those cold, calculating eyes. Now she was on her feet, her face drained of all colour, rushing toward the stairs. I sat there, unable to move, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. What was happening? What had I done? But to understand that morning, I need to take you back. Back to where this nightmare really began. 3 months ago, I found out I was pregnant. I thought Trevor would be happy. We'd been married for 3 years, and despite everything, I still hoped that maybe a baby would change things. Maybe he would become the man I thought I was marrying. Maybe his mother would finally accept me. I was so stupid. The morning sickness started at 8 weeks. Not the gentle nausea that some women describe. This was violent, constant, debilitating. I couldn't keep anything down. Water, crackers, plain toast. Everything came back up within minutes. I lost 12 pounds in 2 weeks. Trevor was disgusted by me. "You're pathetic," he said one morning, watching me stumble from the bathroom after another episode. "My mother never acted like this when she was pregnant. Real women handle it better." That's when things changed. He took my phone first, said I was spending too much time complaining to my friends instead of focusing on being a proper wife and mother. Then he started turning people away from the door. My friend Jessica came by to check on me, and Trevor told her I was sleeping and couldn't be disturbed. When I asked about it later, he said she never came. "Stop making things up," he snapped. "The pregnancy is making you confused." Patricia moved in 2 weeks after that. "To help," she said. But she didn't help. She made everything worse. The woman hated me from the moment Trevor brought me home 3 years ago. I inherited everything when my parents died in a car accident 4 years ago. Properties, investments, trust funds. My father was a successful real estate developer, and he left it all to me, his only child. I didn't realise until much later that this was why Trevor pursued me, why he was so charming, so attentive, so perfect during our courtship, why he pushed for a quick wedding. Patricia knew. She'd planned it all. Living with her was like living with a snake. She would bump into me in the hallway, her elbow catching my stomach just hard enough to hurt but not hard enough to leave a mark. Well, not at first. "Oh, I'm so clumsy," she'd say with a sweet smile. "You really should be more careful in your condition, dear." She served me food that smelled wrong, tasted strange. When I refused to eat it, she'd call Trevor and tell him I was being difficult. He'd come home angry, backing her up, always taking her side. "My mother is trying to help you, and you're being ungrateful," he'd say, his voice low and dangerous. "Eat the food." Once I ate the chicken she made. I was sick for 3 days. She claimed it was fresh, that I must have a weak stomach from the pregnancy. The worst incident happened 3 weeks ago. I was at the top of the stairs, and Patricia was behind me carrying laundry. She bumped into me, hard. I tumbled down 3 steps before catching myself on the railing. My shoulder hit the wall and pain exploded through my side. "Oh my goodness, Amelia!" Patricia gasped, rushing down to where I sat, trembling. "You really need to watch where you're going. These stairs are dangerous for someone in your condition." Trevor came running from his study. Instead of checking if I was okay, he looked annoyed. "What did you do now?" he asked. "She fell down the stairs," Patricia said, her voice dripping with false concern. "I'm worried about her, Trevor. She seems so unsteady lately, confused. Yesterday she insisted I was trying to poison her food. It's not normal." I tried to defend myself, but Trevor cut me off. "You're being dramatic. My mother is here to help you, and all you do is complain." He turned to Patricia. "Maybe we should call Dr. Harrison, get her checked out." Something in the way he said it made my skin crawl. The look they shared. Quick, knowing. That night I heard them talking in the kitchen. I'd gotten up to get water and heard their voices through the door. "The papers are ready," Patricia was saying. "Dr. Harrison will sign off on the evaluation. Once she's hospitalized, you'll have power of attorney." "How long?" That was Trevor's voice. 6 months, maybe less. Once she's committed for psychiatric evaluation, we can sell the properties. By the time anyone questions it, the money will be moved." My hand shook so hard I almost dropped my glass. They were planning something. Something involving me, involving my properties, involving a hospital. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I crept back to bed and lay there in the dark, my mind racing. What were they planning? Why did they want me hospitalized? My father's lawyer, Mr. Walsh, had tried to visit twice in the past month for our annual trust review. Trevor sent him away both times, saying I was too sick. Now I understood why. The next 2 days were torture. I pretended everything was normal while Patricia and Trevor watched me constantly. I caught them whispering, saw them exchange looks. Patricia started being strangely nice, which terrified me more than her cruelty. Then came yesterday morning. I woke to gentle hands shaking my shoulder. Patricia stood over me, smiling. "Good morning, sweetie," she said in a voice like honey. "Let me help you to the bathroom." She helped me up, rubbed my back while I was sick, even held my hair. The same woman who'd pushed me down the stairs was now acting like a caring mother. Something was very wrong. This morning was worse. She woke me at 7, that same sweet smile on her face. "I'm making you a special breakfast," she announced. "Something that will help with the morning sickness. An old family recipe." In the kitchen, she'd prepared a feast. Pancakes, bacon, scrambled eggs with herbs, fresh juice, and a steaming cup of tea that smelled strange. "This will make you feel so much better," she cooed, setting a specific plate in front of my usual chair. The eggs on that plate looked different from the others. Darker, with more herbs mixed in. Trevor came down, already dressed for work. Patricia snapped at him to sit at the far end of the table. "Your wife needs space to eat her special breakfast," she said firmly. He obeyed, which was strange. Trevor never listened to anyone. I stared at the plate in front of me. My stomach churned. The smell of the food made me want to vomit, but it was more than that. Every instinct I had screamed danger. Patricia watched me like a hawk. "Eat up, dear. All of it. It's important." Trevor kept checking his watch, fidgeting. The air felt thick with tension. When Patricia turned to the stove and Trevor glanced at his phone, I made my decision. My hands shaking, I quickly switched my plate with Trevor's. He didn't notice. He was too busy scrolling through his messages, shoveling food into his mouth without really tasting it. Patricia turned back and saw my new plate still full. Her eyes narrowed. "Amelia, you need to eat." "I can't," I whispered. "I'm sorry, I feel too sick." Trevor stood abruptly. "She's useless. Can't even eat a simple breakfast." He grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door. That's when I saw Patricia's face change. She was staring at Trevor's empty plate, then at the door, then back at the plate. Her face went from angry to confused to absolutely horrified. She'd realized something terrible. And 30 minutes later, Trevor screamed. I should have known something was wrong the moment Patricia's face changed color. She went completely white, staring at Trevor's empty plate like she'd seen a ghost. Her hands started trembling, and she grabbed the edge of the kitchen counter to steady herself. "Patricia?" I asked quietly. "Are you okay?" She didn't answer. She just kept staring at that plate, her lips moving silently like she was counting or praying. Then she looked up at me, and for just a second, I saw something in her eyes. Not anger, not hatred. Fear. Pure, absolute fear. "Did you eat any of your breakfast?" she asked, her voice tight. "No. I told you I feel too sick." She looked at the plate in front of me, the one that had originally been Trevor's. Then she looked back at the spot where Trevor had been sitting. I watched her mind working, calculating, and then her face went from white to grey. "What time did Trevor leave?" she whispered. "Maybe 5 minutes ago. He said he had an early meeting." Patricia grabbed her phone and started dialing frantically. Her hands shook so badly she dropped it twice. When someone finally answered, she spoke in a rush. "Cancel everything. Cancel it now. Do you understand? Everything we discussed." She paused, listening. "I don't care. Just cancel it." She hung up and immediately dialed another number. I sat frozen in my chair, watching this woman who had tormented me for months completely fall apart. She made 3 more calls, each one more desperate than the last. Words like mistake and wrong person and "we need to stop this" floated through the kitchen. "Patricia, what's going on?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked at me then, really looked at me. And I saw something I'd never seen before. Panic. Raw, undiluted panic. "You switched the plates," she said. It wasn't a question. My heart stopped. I don't know what you mean. Don't lie to me. You switched them, didn't you? When I was at the stove?" I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The way she was looking at me, The terror in her eyes confirmed every horrible suspicion I'd had. The food was poisoned. She'd poisoned my breakfast. Before I could say anything, her phone rang. She answered it immediately. What? When? Her face went even paler. Which hospital? I'm on my way. She hung up and looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Then, without a word, she grabbed her purse and ran out the door. I sat alone in that kitchen, surrounded by the remains of the special breakfast, and tried to understand what had just happened. My whole body was shaking. If I had eaten that food, if I hadn't switched those plates, the house felt too quiet, too empty. I looked down at my stomach, at the small bump where my baby was growing, and burst into tears. 20 minutes passed, maybe 30. I lost track of time, sitting there in shock. Then my phone rang, except I didn't have my phone. Trevor had taken it weeks ago. The ringing was coming from the living room. Trevor's phone. He must have forgotten it in his rush to leave. I walked over and picked it up. The screen showed Office Kelly, his assistant. Something told me to answer it. Hello? Mrs. Grant? Kelly's voice was high and panicked. Is Trevor there? We need you to come to the hospital right away. He collapsed in his car in the driveway. The neighbours found him and called an ambulance. He's at Mercy General. The phone slipped from my hand. Trevor collapsed. In his car. In the driveway. The breakfast. The poisoned breakfast that was meant for me. I picked up the phone with shaking hands. Is he alive? Yes, but the doctors said it's serious. They're running tests. Please come quickly. I hung up and stood there trying to process everything. Patricia had poisoned my breakfast. Trevor ate it instead. Now he was in the hospital, and Patricia knew exactly what was happening to him because she'd caused it. I grabbed Trevor's phone and my purse and called for a taxi. Trevor had taken my car keys months ago, claiming I was too sick to drive safely. The taxi ride to the hospital felt like it took forever. My mind raced with thoughts, memories, pieces of conversations I'd overheard. Patricia ordering something online, Trevor talking about the plan, those whispered conversations about commitment papers and hospitalizations. They were going to poison me, make me sick, make me seem crazy, and then lock me away while they took everything. At the hospital, I found Kelly in the emergency waiting room. She looked terrified. Mrs. Grant, the doctors are with him now. They won't tell me anything because I'm not family. They said he was convulsing when the paramedics arrived. They think it might be a seizure or poison. Poison. The word hung in the air between us. Where's his mother? Kelly asked. She's on her way, I said quietly. A doctor emerged from the emergency area looking grim. Mrs. Grant? I nodded. Your husband is stable for now, but his condition is serious. We've pumped his stomach and we're running a full toxicology panel. Can you tell me what he ate this morning? Before I could answer, Patricia appeared, rushing through the emergency room doors. Her hair was messy, her makeup smeared. She looked like she'd been crying. Where is he? Where's my son? The doctor turned to her. Are you Mrs. Grant's mother-in-law? Yes. Is Trevor okay? What happened? We're trying to determine that. I was just asking Mrs. Grant about his breakfast this morning. Patricia's eyes locked onto mine. I saw the warning there, the threat. But I also saw the fear. She was terrified of what I might say. His mother made breakfast, I said slowly, watching Patricia's face. A special breakfast. Pancakes, eggs with herbs, and a special tea. The doctor frowned. What kind of herbs? I don't know, I said honestly. Patricia made everything. All eyes turned to Patricia. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I could see her mind working, trying to find a way out. Just regular cooking herbs, she finally said. Parsley, maybe some oregano. Nothing unusual. Amelia must be confused. The pregnancy makes her forgetful. There it was again. The suggestion that I was crazy, unreliable, confused. I'm not confused, I said quietly. You made a special plate. You insisted Trevor sit away from me. You watched me to make sure I ate from that specific plate. Patricia's face turned red. That's ridiculous. I was trying to help with your morning sickness. Trevor, tell them. But Trevor couldn't tell them anything. He was unconscious in the emergency room, fighting for his life. A nurse approached the doctor and whispered something in his ear. His expression darkened. I need to speak with both of you privately, he said. Security, please escort these ladies to the consultation room. 2 security guards appeared. Not regular hospital staff, but actual security. My heart started pounding again. In the consultation room, the doctor closed the door and looked at both of us with a serious expression. The preliminary toxicology results show high levels of several toxic compounds in your husband's system. This wasn't an accident or a medical emergency. Someone deliberately poisoned him. Patricia made a sound like a wounded animal. The doctor continued, "I've called the police. They'll want to speak with both of you about what happened this morning. In the meantime, I need to ask you both to wait here." He left, and the security guard stood by the door. I looked at Patricia. She looked at me. We sat in silence waiting, while Trevor fought for his life down the hall. The breakfast she'd made for me was inside him, tearing through his system, destroying him from the inside. The consultation room felt like it was closing in on me. Patricia sat across from me, her hands twisted together in her lap, her face a mask of barely controlled panic. The security guard stood by the door, arms crossed, watching us both. Neither of us spoke for a long time. I kept thinking about Trevor's phone, still clutched in my hand. When we got in the taxi, I'd noticed it was unlocked. He must have been using it when he collapsed, and it never locked again. I could see notifications lighting up the screen. Messages. Emails. Everything. Patricia was staring at the wall, her lips moving silently. She looked older suddenly, like she'd aged 10 years in the past hour. Her perfect makeup was streaked with tears, her carefully styled hair falling loose around her face. "How long?" I asked quietly. She didn't respond, didn't even look at me. "How long were you planning this?" My voice was stronger now. "Days? Weeks? Months?" Patricia's jaw clenched. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." I held up Trevor's phone, "and I think this will tell me everything I need to know." Her eyes snapped to the phone, and I saw fear flash across her face, real, genuine terror. I unlocked the screen and started scrolling. The first thing I saw was a text message thread between Trevor and Patricia from 2 days ago. Trevor: "Everything ready for Friday?" Patricia: "Yes. Dr. Harrison confirmed he'll sign the evaluation papers. The herbs arrived yesterday. She'll be symptomatic within an hour of ingestion." Trevor: "And you're sure this will work?" Patricia: "I've done my research. Small doses over time would be better, but we don't have time. Walsh is getting suspicious. This dose will cause seizures, hallucinations, disorientation. Enough to get her committed for psychiatric evaluation. Once she's locked up, the power of attorney activates." Trevor: "How long until we can sell the properties?" Patricia: 6 months maximum. By the time anyone realizes what happened, the money will be untraceable." My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. I kept reading, scrolling further back. Weeks of messages. Months of planning. Patricia: "Found the perfect herbs, moonflower seeds and white snake root. Mixed correctly, they mimic mental illness symptoms perfectly." Trevor: "You've done this before?" Patricia: "Let's just say your stepfather's death wasn't as accidental as everyone thought." I felt sick. Not morning sickness. Real, bone-deep nausea at what I was reading. There were more messages. Screenshots of my property deeds. Contact information for real estate buyers. Forged documents with my signature. Bank account numbers. Everything they needed to steal my entire inheritance. I looked up at Patricia. She was watching me now, her face pale. "You killed your first husband," I whispered. "Trevor's stepfather. You poisoned him too." She didn't deny it, just sat there staring at me with empty eyes. "Why?" My voice cracked. "Why did you hate me so much? What did I ever do to you?" Patricia laughed then, a bitter, hollow sound. "Hate you? I didn't hate you. I didn't feel anything about you. You were just money, properties, assets. Do you know how long I've been poor? How long I've watched other people live in beautiful homes while I scraped by? So you decided to marry your son off to me? To steal everything?" "I didn't decide anything," Patricia snapped. "Trevor found you first, showed me your family information, your inheritance. We researched you for 6 months before he ever introduced himself. The coffee shop meeting, planned, the shared interests, researched. Every single thing about your courtship was designed to make you trust him." The words hit me like physical blows. Everything had been a lie. Every moment, every smile, every promise. And when that wasn't enough, when I wasn't just handing over my money, you decided to have me committed. "You were going to find out eventually," Patricia said coldly. "Walsh was asking too many questions. You were getting suspicious. We needed to act fast. The pregnancy was perfect timing. Everyone would believe you'd had a mental breakdown from the stress and hormones." I wanted to scream, to cry, to hit her. Instead, I kept scrolling through Trevor's phone, documenting everything. There were photos too. Pictures of documents from Dr. Harrison, pre-signed commitment papers with my name on them, a contract with a private psychiatric facility in another state. They were going to lock me away and throw away the key. The door opened and 2 police detectives entered, a man and a woman, both in plain clothes, both looking very serious. Mrs. Grant? I'm Detective Martinez, and this is Detective Chen. We need to ask you both some questions about this morning's events. They separated us then. Patricia went with Detective Chen to another room. I stayed with Detective Martinez and the female security guard. Detective Martinez was gentle, patient. He asked me to walk him through the entire morning. I told him everything. The special breakfast. Patricia's insistence that I eat from a specific plate, how I switched the plates when they weren't looking. Trevor eating the food meant for me. Why did you switch the plates? He asked. I don't know, I said honestly. Something felt wrong. I've had a bad feeling for weeks. They've been planning something, whispering, making calls. And this morning, the way Patricia watched me. I just knew I shouldn't eat that food. Can you show me these text messages you mentioned? I handed him Trevor's phone, watched his expression darken as he read. He called Detective Chen, and they both examined the phone together, taking photos of everything. Mrs. Grant, Detective Martinez said carefully, I need to ask you something. Have Trevor or his mother hurt you before? I hesitated. Then slowly, I pulled up my sleeves. The bruises were fading but still visible. Finger-shaped marks on my upper arms. I showed him my shoulder, still discolored from where I hit the wall when Patricia pushed me down the stairs. The security guard gasped. Detective Martinez's jaw tightened. How long has this been going on? Since I got pregnant. It got worse when Patricia moved in. A nurse knocked on the door. Detective? The toxicology report is complete. You need to see this. We followed her to a small office where a doctor was reviewing papers on a computer screen. The levels are extremely high, the doctor explained. White snake root and moonflower seeds, just like the messages described. Whoever prepared this knew exactly what they were doing. Another hour without treatment, and Mr. Grant would have died. Even now, he's going to need extensive treatment for the organ damage. Detective Martinez turned to me. You saved your husband's life by not eating that food, even though he was part of the plan to hurt you. I didn't know how to feel about that. Part of me wished I'd let Trevor eat his own breakfast, the breakfast Patricia had prepared for him, but another part of me, the part that had loved him once, was glad he was alive. At least alive enough to face justice. What happens now? I asked. We're arresting Mrs. Patricia Grant for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, and elder abuse. Your husband will be arrested as soon as he's stable enough. The evidence on this phone is more than enough. Through the window, I could see Patricia being led away in handcuffs. She looked small suddenly, broken. She glanced back once and saw me watching. I expected hatred in her eyes. Instead, I saw resignation. She knew it was over. Detective Martinez touched my arm gently. Mrs. Grant, I need you to call someone. A lawyer, a friend, family, someone who can help you. Do you have anyone? I thought of Mr. Walsh, my father's lawyer, the man who'd been trying to protect me all along. Yes, I whispered. I have someone. Mr. Walsh arrived at the hospital within an hour of my call. I was sitting in a private waiting room when he rushed in, his face filled with concern. He was older than I remembered, his hair grayer, but his eyes were the same. Kind. Trustworthy. The way my father's had been. Amelia, he breathed, and before I knew what was happening, I was crying in his arms like a child. I'm so sorry, he kept saying. I should have pushed harder. I should have known something was wrong when Trevor kept turning me away. It's not your fault, I managed between sobs. They planned everything. You couldn't have known. Detective Martinez joined us, and I watched as Mr. Walsh's expression changed from concern to fury as he read through Trevor's phone messages. These people, he said, his voice shaking with anger, tried to steal everything your father worked his entire life to build, everything he left to protect you. There's something else, Detective Martinez said. He pulled out a folder. We searched Patricia Grant's house an hour ago. Found this. He opened the folder and spread papers across the table. My breath caught. It was a notebook. Patricia's handwriting filled every page. Detailed notes about poison doses, symptoms, timing, expected reactions. There were pages about me specifically. My routines, my habits, what I ate when I slept. She'd been watching me for months, studying me like a lab experiment. But it went back further than that. Look at this, Detective Martinez pointed to pages dated 4 years ago, before I even met Trevor. The pages detailed my family, my father's business, my inheritance, property values, trust fund details, information that should have been private. She researched you for over a year before Trevor ever approached you. Mr. Walsh said, his voice hollow. This was planned from the very beginning. I felt numb. Every moment of my relationship had been a lie. Trevor didn't bump into me at that coffee shop by accident. He didn't share my love of old movies by coincidence. Everything was calculated, researched, designed to make me fall in love with him. There's more, Detective Martinez said quietly. He turned to a section near the back of the notebook. The pages were about Patricia's first husband, Trevor's stepfather, a man named Richard who died 7 years ago from what was ruled as a heart attack. Patricia's notes told a different story. The same herbs, the same careful planning, the same calculated doses. She'd poisoned him slowly over 6 months, and when he finally died, she inherited everything. Not much, the notes said. Only about $200,000. But it was enough to prove she could do it and get away with it. We're reopening Richard's case, Detective Martinez said. His body will be exhumed for testing. If we find the same toxins, Patricia will face murder charges on top of everything else. Mr. Walsh was reading another section of the notebook. This is Trevor's handwriting, he said, pointing to notes in different ink. He was keeping track of the properties, planning which ones to sell first, where to move the money. The notes were detailed and cold. My childhood home, the one my parents bought when I was born, was marked Sell Immediately, Highest Value. The apartment building my father built as his first project was marked Liquidate Offshore Accounts. They were going to erase my entire family legacy and disappear with the money. How much would they have gotten? I asked quietly. Mr. Walsh looked at me sadly. Everything. Your entire inheritance is worth approximately $18 million. If their plan had worked, if you'd been committed and declared incompetent, they could have sold everything within a year. By the time you got out, if you ever got out, there would be nothing left. $18 million. My father had worked 40 years to build that, and Trevor and Patricia were going to steal it all in less than 12 months. A nurse entered the room. Mrs. Grant, your husband is awake. He's asking for you. I looked at Detective Martinez. He nodded. We need to interview him anyway. You can be there if you want. I didn't want to see Trevor. Didn't want to look at the man who'd lied to me for 3 years, who'd helped his mother plan to destroy me. But I needed to hear what he would say. Needed to see if he would tell the truth or keep lying until the end. Trevor's hospital room was cold and sterile. He lay in the bed, pale and weak, with IV lines running into both arms. When he saw me, something flickered in his eyes. Not love, not remorse. Calculation. Amelia, he said, his voice raspy. Thank God you're here. My mother, she tried to poison me. I stared at him in disbelief. Detective Martinez stepped forward. Mr. Grant, I'm Detective Martinez. We need to ask you some questions about this morning. I'll tell you everything, Trevor said quickly. My mother has been planning this for months. She's obsessed with Amelia's money. She forced me to help her. She threatened me, said she'd hurt Amelia if I didn't go along with it. That's a lie, I said, my voice cold. Trevor looked at me with pleading eyes. Baby, you have to believe me. I love you. I was trying to protect you. I was going to go to the police, but she said she'd kill you if I told anyone. Stop lying, I said. Detective Martinez held up Trevor's phone. Mr. Grant, we have your text messages. All of them. Every conversation with your mother, every plan you made, every property you planned to sell. Trevor's face went white, then red, then white again. Those are fake, he tried. Someone must have hacked my phone. We also have your handwriting in your mother's planning notebook, Detective Martinez continued. Notes about liquidating assets, offshore accounts, timetables for selling properties. Trevor opened his mouth, then closed it. I watched him realize there was no way out. No more lies that would work. No more manipulation. It was my mother's idea, he finally said, his voice turning hard. All of it. She's the one who researched Amelia. She's the one who told me to pursue her. She planned everything. But you went along with it, I said. You married me knowing you were going to steal everything. You helped your mother abuse me. You stood by and watched her push me down the stairs. You were always so weak, Trevor spat. And there it was. The real Trevor. The mask finally off. Crying all the time, complaining about being sick. You couldn't even handle a simple pregnancy without falling apart. My mother was right. You didn't deserve that money. You didn't earn it. Neither did you, Mr. Walsh said sharply. You earned nothing. You built nothing. You're a parasite who married a grieving young woman and tried to destroy her. Trevor glared at him, then at me. You gave me that breakfast, he said suddenly, pointing at me with a shaking finger. You knew it was poisoned, and you gave it to me. That makes you just as guilty. I didn't know it was poisoned, I said. I just knew something was wrong. My instinct told me not to eat it, so I didn't. You tried to kill me. No, Detective Martinez said. Your mother tried to kill your wife. You ate the poison meant for her by accident. That's not attempted murder on Mrs. Grant's part. That's just karma. Trevor tried to sit up, but the effort was too much. He fell back against the pillows, breathing hard. You're both under arrest, Detective Martinez said. You'll be formally charged as soon as you're medically cleared. Attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, domestic violence, and financial elder abuse. Your mother is also facing potential murder charges for her first husband's death. I want a lawyer, Trevor said. Of course you do, Detective Martinez replied. You'll get one, but the evidence against you both is overwhelming. Those text messages alone are enough to convict you. I looked at Trevor one last time. This man I'd loved, this man I'd trusted, this man who'd promised to cherish me forever. He was a stranger. He'd always been a stranger. I want a divorce, I said quietly, immediately. We'll file the papers tomorrow, Mr. Walsh said. Emergency protective order too. I walked out of that hospital room and didn't look back. The next 4 weeks moved like a dream. Or maybe a nightmare I was finally waking up from. Mr. Walsh worked faster than I thought possible. Within 3 days, emergency protective orders were filed against both Trevor and Patricia. Within a week, divorce papers were served to Trevor in his hospital bed. Within 2 weeks, all of my assets were frozen to prevent any unauthorized transactions. Patricia remained in jail. The judge denied her bail after the prosecution presented evidence of her first husband's suspicious death. When they exhumed Richard's body, they found the same toxins Patricia had used on Trevor. The same careful, deliberate poisoning over months. She'd done this before, and she'd gotten away with it. Not this time. Trevor was transferred from the hospital to a prison medical facility after 10 days. The organ damage from the poison was severe. The doctors said he'd need treatment for years. Good, I thought, and then felt guilty for thinking it, but only a little guilty. I moved out of the house I'd shared with Trevor. Mr. Walsh found me a secure apartment in a building with 24-hour security, cameras, and a doorman who actually checked identification. The first night there, I slept for 12 hours straight. No one shook me awake. No one criticized how I looked or what I ate or how I breathed. I was alone, truly alone for the first time in 3 years. It was terrifying, and it was wonderful. My morning sickness started to ease as I entered my second trimester. I could eat again, real food I chose myself. Food that no one had tampered with or poisoned or used as a weapon. The first time I made myself breakfast in my new apartment, I cried. Just scrambled eggs and toast. Simple. Safe. Mine. Mr. Walsh connected me with a therapist who specialized in domestic abuse and trauma. Her name was Dr. Reyes, and she didn't look at me with pity. She looked at me like I was strong, like I was a survivor. You saved your own life, she said during our first session. You trusted your instincts when everyone around you was telling you to ignore them. That takes incredible strength. I didn't feel strong. I felt broken, used, stupid for not seeing the signs earlier. You weren't stupid, Dr. Reyes said when I told her this. You were being abused by people who were experts at manipulation. Patricia had done this before. She'd perfected her technique. Trevor was raised by her, taught by her. They were professionals, and you were their target. The fact that you survived, that you trusted yourself enough to switch those plates, proves you're stronger than they ever were. The words helped, slowly, a little bit each day. The legal proceedings moved forward. Patricia's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor refused. The evidence was too strong, the crimes too severe. She was facing attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, and now murder charges for Richard's death. Trevor's lawyer did manage to negotiate a deal. He agreed to testify against his mother in exchange for a slightly reduced sentence. He threw her under the bus without hesitation, claiming she'd manipulated him his entire life, that he was a victim too. I watched his testimony on video. Mr. Walsh thought I should see it. Trevor looked small on the screen, weak. He cried as he described how his mother had planned everything, how she'd forced him to participate. He painted himself as another victim of Patricia's schemes. The prosecutor destroyed him on cross-examination. Mr. Grant, is it true that you researched Miss Amelia Davis for 6 months before approaching her? Yes, but my mother told me to. Yes or no, Mr. Grant? Yes. Is it true that you married Miss Davis knowing you intended to steal her inheritance? My mother planned. Yes or no? Yes. Is it true that you witnessed your mother physically assault your pregnant wife and did nothing to stop it? Trevor was silent for a long moment. Yes. Is it true that you yourself verbally and emotionally abused your wife throughout your marriage? I was under my mother's influence. Yes or no, Mr. Grant? Yes. I turned off the video. I didn't need to see anymore. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I attended every day, sitting in the back of the courtroom with Mr. Walsh beside me. Patricia never looked at me. Not once. She sat at the defense table, her face blank, her eyes empty. Trevor testified against her for 2 full days. Then it was my turn. I walked to the witness stand with my hand on my growing belly. I was showing now, clearly pregnant. The jury watched me with sympathetic eyes. The prosecutor was gentle with me. She asked me to describe my marriage, the abuse, the morning of the poisoning. I told the truth. All of it. The bruises, the stares, the fear. The text messages I'd found on Trevor's phone. Patricia's lawyer tried to break me on cross-examination, tried to suggest I'd known about the poison, that I'd deliberately given it to Trevor, that I was as guilty as anyone. Mrs. Grant, isn't it true that you hated your husband? No, I said quietly. I loved him. At least, I loved who I thought he was. I didn't hate him until I realized everything was a lie. But you gave him poisoned food. I didn't know it was poisoned. I just knew something was wrong. How convenient. It wasn't convenient, I said, my voice stronger now. It was instinct. The same instinct that had kept me alive for months while your client tormented me. The same instinct that told me something was very wrong when a woman who hated me suddenly started being kind. The lawyer tried a few more questions, but I didn't break. Dr. Reyes had prepared me well. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Patricia was found guilty on all counts. Attempted murder of me, murder of Richard, conspiracy to commit fraud, financial elder abuse, everything. The judge sentenced her to 15 years for the attempted murder, with an additional life sentence for Richard's murder. She would die in prison. Trevor's sentencing came a week later. Because of his cooperation and plea deal, he received 12 years for conspiracy and fraud. When he was released, he would have a permanent restraining order, preventing him from ever contacting me again. I sat in the courtroom and watched as they led him away in handcuffs. He looked back at me once. I thought I saw something like regret in his eyes, but maybe I was just imagining it. After the sentencing, Mr. Walsh and I went back to his office. He had papers for me to sign. Divorce finalized. Assets fully restored to my control. Everything that was stolen now returned. Your father would be proud of you, Mr. Walsh said quietly. He built all of this to protect you, to give you security and freedom. Trevor and Patricia tried to take that away, but you fought back. You won. I signed the papers with shaking hands. That night, in my safe apartment, I made myself dinner. Pasta with vegetables. Nothing fancy. I ate slowly, tasting every bite, marveling at how good food could taste when you weren't afraid of it. My baby kicked, strong, insistent kicks that made me laugh and cry at the same time. It's just us now, I whispered, my hand on my belly. Just you and me. And we're going to be okay. We're going to be better than okay. I thought about that morning 4 weeks ago, the breakfast that changed everything, the split-second decision to switch those plates. If I hadn't trusted my instincts, I would have eaten that poison. I would have been hospitalized, committed, declared insane. My baby and I would have lost everything. But I did trust myself, and that trust saved us both. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed, in my own home with sunlight streaming through windows I'd chosen. No one to criticize me, no one to hurt me, no one to tell me I was worthless or weak. I made breakfast, just toast and tea, simple and safe, and for the first time in 3 years, I was free.